What's up, designers? Right now we're going to go over how to name files and follow the No Limit Creatives naming convention. So we've created a naming convention that just keeps all of our files very organized and easily searchable. So if you get past a design file from a client or another designer in our company, you'll easily be able to find that actual project that file is related to by following the code in the naming convention. So it's very important all of our files are named this way. Now we'll start from the top. This is what a file name will look like, and you can see on this guide in your training you'll be able to recognize which part is which, and it's all really clear and organized. So you can see that this first part is a very long random number. This actually comes from the Asana task. So inside of the Asana task, when you are clicked into that task, there is going to be a unique URL in your browser address bar. So you'll be able to find this code very simply. If you look at the browser, you'll see that it is the last set of numbers after this /, and it will always be unique to that project that we're working on. So it's always just this number. You can highlight this, copy and paste it when you're making the name for the file. The next part here you'll see is the company name. That is found at the top of the Asana project or the Asana board for that client. So you'll be able to see this is the client's name. It's very clear. That's where you're going to source that part. Then you will see the size. The size is actually here. It's going to be right after the company name. It is found inside of the project brief. So whatever size the client requested, or you know that you're making that project, that's where you're going to find that size. So it can be a ratio or it can be the actual pixel dimensions. It is not standardized in what it has to be, but it just has to be the size that the client requested and that the actual design file is, so that we can know that's that project. Next is designer initials. These are the initials that are assigned to you, and you will be placing these after the size so that we know who the designer was that made that project, and we can always recall to that designer and say, hey, can I get this? Can I have that? Or ask for any advice on that design. And finally, the last part in green is the version number. What's important to know about the version number is the first number is the actual version of the design, or the actual design. So this is the initial design. If we're making 3 different designs, one design is going to be 1.01, the next design is going to be 2.01, and then the next design will be 3.01. If we make a change on the file that is 1.01, that will now change to 1.02. So any changes or variations of the initial file or the initial asset is going to be when we change that sub number, which is the 01. That will always change if you're making a change on text in a design, or you're changing an element, it's being revised. That is when we're going to change that sub number to another number. So the initial version of every design is always going to be 1.01 or 2.01, and then when you're making a change to that initial variation, it's going to be 1.02, 1.03, and so on. So that is how you name files correctly. It's very straightforward, very simple, and you can always recall this form. So what we'll do now is quickly go over how to name a file in the real world. Okay, here I am ready to save my project files, and I'm going to go through the process of naming the file. So the first thing I need to find is the actual unique Asana code for this project, and that's going to be found right here in the address bar. I'm going to click that and make sure that I highlight just the code, and then I'll paste that into the project name. Then I'll dash. The next part is the company name, so I'm finding that right up here. It's always going to be in this location. You can also see that right here where it says projects. This is also the company name. So we'll type that in, CTC team 1. Now we know who the project is for. Then the next part is going to be the size, where I will find that here. So they've got multiple sizes here, and you will encounter this in the real world. Our process for designing multiple sizes on a project is we'll work on one size initially, we'll get that one approved, and then we'll knock out the next batch of sizes. So in this case, I'm making the initial design. I'm going to have only the first part of this in my project name. So that's going to be 1080 by 1080. Now I've got the size recorded in my project file name. The next part is going to be my unique initials. So we're going to hit dash again. I'm going to put my initials in. Now I'm telling any other designer that is checking this project that I'm the one who's done that project. They can always reach out to me for any information that they need. And last but not least is the version number. So since this is the first version, I'm going to name it 1.01. And as you can see in the request, they've asked for 5 adds. So what this would mean is this is my first version. My second version would be called 2.01. The third would be 3.01. The fourth would be 4.01. And the final version would be 5.01. That is how you name the different versions for the same project. If I have submitted 1.01 and they let me know they need a change on 1.01, I'm going to make that change, and then I'm going to save that file as 1.02, just like this. That's going to say this is the most recent version of this design, of this unique design out of the 5 designs that you've asked for. Lastly, at the bottom of this document, you will find how to name zip files and how to name Google folders. So we do this a little bit differently because there is more of an ease of use for customers to find the files, especially on a Google Drive where the entire file name is not previewed and it's hard to see what's what. On zip files, it is essentially the same as the project file, but we're removing the project size because there's going to be multiple sizes in that file. It's actually going to be the entire source file, so it's not necessary to define it by the size of the project. And finally, the client Google folders are named relatively different, where you're actually using the project name in the first line of the file name, and then you're using that unique Asana number. The reason we're doing this is so that the client can easily find whatever project this file is related to, and then we are still able to find that file in Asana because we have the unique number. So really quickly, in this case, if we were naming a Google file, we would be using this project title as the first part of the name. So we would say Face Socks - St. Patrick's Day - the unique Asana code, which is right up here. That is all it takes to name the Google folder. That is the process for naming a project and the process for naming a zip file. So if you do have any other questions on this and you do not understand any parts, please reach out to your team trainer and your team leader. Thank you.